And welcome back, everyone, to our last game of the evening here. LGD versus World Elite with LGD up again. We're straight into Champs League now. No messing around for either of these two teams. And we're through the bans almost already. LGD have banned out Nidalee, Scion, and Rek'Sai there. And World Elite going with Cho'Gath Thresh with one more to come.
Notably, no Diana ban. Rumble is the last ban targeted at Acorn. Still a lot of strong champions available, a lot of signature picks available too. Wales' Cho'Gath drawing so much ire, it leaves open the LeBlanc.
Yeah, and that's, again, you talked about it in the first game. Big blind pick for a lot of mid laners. They love this champion, and why not take it up for Wales? Had a great performance on Diana. Gonna see if you can repeat it here on LeBlanc.
There's still some power picks available for World Elite. Maokai definitely wasn't the source of any of the problems in the previous game. Hecarim's still available as an answer, so we may see a repeat of the top lane matchup, but UJ is going to take away the Janna. At least they're considering taking away POL's very strong Janna.
Yeah, and they will get it there. So a smart pick away. Always good to take away Janna from POL or Marta. They're the two biggest Janna players probably in the LPL. Luke, you're going to revisit Malco, but like you said, that does open up potential problems in LGD. Got a couple more picks to make now as well. And notably, again, the jungle pool shredded quite bad here.
But speaking of picks, I mean, we were already thinking about Annie LeBlanc, so much pick pressure in the mid game. TBQ was showing us Rengar, which is the likely pick. We're still expecting that. Showing a couple of flavor picks. Master Yi, still no sighting of him this season. Pick power is what they're going for with whatever champion they lock in.
Yeah, and they're actually going to swap things around a little bit. Jarvan does get locked in. Love the takeaway there from Spirit. And Morgana going to be a pick-esque champion here for POL, probably on support.
Yeah, having the Morgana, though, opens up the hyper carry pick coming through from Imp. Will it be Vayne that he played recently? Will he return to the Kalista? Not always a big fan of the Imp YL Kalista lanes, but they have shown some good performance with that champion. Jia, it looks like he's going to be considering the Ahri. It's not a blocker pick to the Diana. It's definitely a bit of a skill matchup, so we might still see the Diana coming through. And with, as you mentioned, not a lot of viable junglers left. Spirit might have to be on Lee Sin.
He knows his matchup. It's probably LeBlanc here, which is definitely a skill matchup there for Ahri.
That's
so
true.
If he wants to take it, he'll get it. Spirit gonna go to Lee Sin, and GA does lock in Ahri.
It won't be Diana, so maybe a cry of disbelief coming through that we don't see it. We're waiting for the Imp YL lane coming through. Graves Leona will be a lot of power, but the hyper carry with the Morgana hover seemed very likely. Imp already showed a lot of things on this champion, but we'll wait and see what they decide.
I mean, Imp loves his Vayne. The last time he played it, though, he just insta-locked it when it came around. So, you know, clearly says, hey, guys, talking to his analyst, can I pick this? I really want to play it. And they're like, no, please pick Graves.
If it's going to be Leona, I don't expect the Vayne. That's a very aggressive all-in Vayne. There's almost no margin for error.
Oh,
That's
God.
the Vayne locked in, and Vayne Annie, all in. It's still there.
Yeah, very all-in lane. I mean, Imp's Vayne's fantastic, can dance around these fights quite well and help pick people off with his passive, but an interesting choice here, and we've actually left Mystic with the last pick here, it looks like. So if he wants to counterpick this aggressive base Vayne lane, he has the chance to.
I mean, they've already shown Graves. Graves would at least be the burst to try and prey upon Vayne in the early levels. There's no fantastic matchup. I mean, look, Vayne struggles in basically every laning matchup, so you can take anything. He's shown great proficiency on the Lucian. That's what he used to take down Uzi's Kalista last series, so I wouldn't mind this pickup. But Imp PYL on Vayne Annie, just to look back, I mentioned I didn't expect the Vayne Leona lane to come through. Vayne Annie has a bit of an upside just because Annie has a ranged auto attack. So when it comes to turret pressure in lane, just the ability to trade with a ranged auto is a little bit more reliable pressure than Leona. So while the all-in with Leona, especially at level 2, would be stronger, Annie, a bit more flexibility to the lineup.
Yeah, and actually, I do like the last pick 80 here as well for Mystic being Lucian. I think Lucian's fine, as you said, fine against Vayne like most laners that would take him, but seems to be one of his best performing champions. Lucian in general, just so good at so many different stages, lanes very well, very mobile, and fine in the late game. So it's been a very popular champion recently, and you can kind of see why.
And the mid-game power spike's definitely there for World Elite as we start to see their lineup. We're talking about the Maokais of the world. As we're going to see the top lane matchup, going to be a farm fest.
Yeah, Acorn actually did take the Morgana. We forgot to mention that with POL having the aggressive
Back to the mages.
Yeah, so lots of farming there. Probably fine for both of them. DBQ here going to take away Jarvan, but Spirit, of course, had another jungler already within his Lee Sin, and his Lee Sin especially looks deadly when it really goes off. This is a volatile matchup, though, in the mid lane. LeBlanc versus Ahri.
And we remember cool versus rookies battles on these champions. A skill matchup if there ever was one. In lane, though, not a skill matchup. Lucian's going to take out the Vayne.
Yeah, I mean, at least has an edge on the early stages. And POL going to take the aggressive end up against the Janna, of course, one of his favorite supports. So Imp, whenever he plays Vayne, he tends to have a big reason for it. Curious to see him play it here again. It is his favorite champion. I wonder what he's going to get up to this time.
Speaking of favorite champions, all about Spirit on the Lee Sin. Can he run this game? Can he take advantage of the early game? That was what happened in that big first win against OMG. 2 kind of quiet games for Spirit. No coincidence. 2 losses for World Elite.
Let's find out how Spirit and Imp both do as we get straight into our next game. And welcome back here. LGD versus World Elite, and Imp is on it again. The Vayne has come out to play one more time.
And Imp loves to keep it classy. The Aristocrat Vayne. Gonna try and class up the Rift. The damage will definitely be there in the late game if he's unhindered in the laning phase. And speaking of laning phase, the first big question, will we see a lane swap coming through from LGD, or will we actually see 2v2 lanes?
I don't think LGD want their 2v2 lanes, but they might be forced into them. So we'll see how the level 1 action does go. Spirit does land the first blow there, although I think he got hit by a flag. So winning the jungle battle slightly there at level 1, but again, poachers spotting each other out. Acorn actually gets caught by a Luca and takes quite a big chunk of damage, but hasn't leveled anything yet, has spotted him up there, so maybe he's going to start the first swap.
It's only magic resist per level runes coming through from Acorn, so only 32 magic resist. Took a surprising burst from an auto attack and a sapling. The lane swap's the big question. LGD, they really want a lane swap for the Vayne Annie. It's a very aggressive lane. In 2v2s, if it falls behind, doesn't offer too much. Even though they're against a Janna, just the pressure of Lucian in the early levels means you want to opt into a lane swap. But they're kind of in this situation where Morgana's okay in a lane swap. She's very brittle, but she's hard to turret dive through the Black Shield, and she does have some ranged farming, ranged pushing options with a Tormented Soul. Can actually be flexible, putting a couple of extra points in Tormented Soul just to counter push from range. But I think they'll have to be relegated to the lane swap, and you can tell with Vayne in the top and Acorn and TBQ are working towards their red buff, it's going to be a lane swap initiated by LGD.
Yeah, you can see Acorn has actually started. Yeah, does get the reference. Oh, that's so clever. Does only put 2 sapping downs and gives Xie the little one.
We've seen a couple of teams mess around with this sort of idea, opening up experience to other people. Actually, World Elite were one of the teams that did do this in IEM, so it's just a way to give some experience to someone, and this could be massive in the skill matchup we just described.
Yeah, really cute stuff. So Lucan now, of course, with the lane swap, will jungle follow, which is why he didn't want the early experience, or didn't need it necessarily. Haven't quite spotted Acorn. It's actually down in the bottom lane, so not following, I guess, not that good in the jungle.
Absolutely, no, her jungling is not massive. Of course, if you smite early, the Tormented Soul damage can actually, because it does more damage the lower health a minion, monster, or champion is, will do respectable damage. But jungle follow, not really her forte. But she's going to be forced into it as Morgana's already entered the jungle.
Yeah, has left here with Mystic freezing the lane 1v0 right now. As UJ, though, will rejoin in for potential push action or just to babysit the Lucian and Acorn. Going to be level 1 for a little while, you have to think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long walk over to the Gromp and blue buff for the Morgana. Finally going to start picking up some experience. Has 1 minion kill, so that's something, and will, again, help with the Tormented Soil, but Morgana jungling, not the biggest situation or advantage coming through for LGD.
No, just going to face tank a bit here, and that's about all the help Acorn can offer. I mean, they are going to do the double jungle, but Aluka very far ahead as far as that goes.
And Xie, so much pressure relieved, hitting the level 2 first. Actually gives him a chance in this matchup against Wales, especially early. Ahri, from level 6 onwards, does have that outplay potential, can potentially pick up a kill. The early levels, as Distortion is leveled up, can be very painful trades for Ahri, especially with a door and ring start, and not the more flexible flash start coming through from Xie.
And I like this a lot from Acorn. Hit level 2 and knows that, you know what, I'm not doing too much. Let's go for a tower dive. And Xie being heavily targeted here by LGD. There are 4 people lining up this dive.
And Annie has a CC. We're going to see some flashes. It's
Oh,
going to be coming soon.
Pathing their away. Forced to flash the chains, but gets up from under the dive. Beautifully read by World Elite's mid laner.
I feel like it was a little bit tipped away by LGD. That should have been a successful gank with all the lockdown CC. Uncleansable CC from TBQ. PYL, Acorn, so much CC. It's massive that Xie survived that pressure.
And time wasted here as Mystics actually put the minions into the bottom turret. Acorn might look for this opportunity to actually smite them. Oh, sorry, teleport down. It was actually following TBQ, so can walk down there if he wants to. Aluka, though, and UJ and Spirit all here. And they're going to go for another early dragon.
Actually, we saw Wayless actually took a turret shot, so actually falls down in health. But as you mentioned, the early dragon is starting. This could not have happened if not for the fact that Jia is competitive in this mid lane. A lot of dragon damage coming through from the Lee Sin. Trade tanking by Aluka. The hard push still on in the top lane, so smart play from World Elite.
They're both AD carries actually pushing here. Gonna be checked. No, not quite. POL will not go in, so the dragon will get snuck away there, and World Elite get another early advantage. Not even going past the ward that I think they just saw POL put down, so want to give as little information to LGD as possible.
But I mean, LGD, you have to remember, the last time we saw a hard freeze 1v0 Vayne in the top lane, that was Uzi on Vayne. Picking up a Blade the Ruin King before backing once. There's no reason for anyone else to enter this top lane, either on World Elite or LGD's side. Stacking up the gold, it's only 1,000, so still 2,200 gold away from the massive Blade the Ruin King. But Vayne getting a free landing phase, never something you want. And that's why you can see Lucian already heading towards this top side.
Yeah, World Elite intelligently are going to swap around there. Morgana actually picking up CS now as well. So Luca going to walk down to his 1v1. POL kind of knows what's going on as Imp's trying to freeze this lane further back towards him. Although, you know, trimming it a little bit now as he might be lining up a push. But we're going to start with standard lanes. We've flipped around a bit, but no dragon here to be taken. So a 2v2 in the top lane, and Spirit getting aggressive, trying to land the Q, but will miss there as Wayless distorts away.
At minimum, using some of Wayless's mana pool will be helpful this year. We already mentioned went for Doran Ring, did not start the Flask. Would have gone for went for the combat stats, went for the early trading because he knew he'd have that extra experience, and it's paid off as Mystic. He finds POL and he's very squishy.
Yeah, he's level 2 right now, and Mystic's just eating him with the damage. But Imp also going on to the support, doesn't get a great condemn there, and follows in with the silver bot straight. POL now level 3 for a bit more stats, and Mystic coming in there. The heal use there, but Spirit's come up as well. Misses the first Q though, but the exhaust is coming on. Spirit flash Tempest forward, and that's first blood. Now teleports moving in as Aluka locks up POL. He's going to go down. TBQ now maybe caught out of position as Mystic jumps in. Spirit gets a ward hop there. Good block of the Q there by Akon, but 2 kills to World Elite.
But importantly, first blood in terms of jungle skirmish advantage going to Lee Sin. Excellent pressure coming through. 1-0-1 is Lee Sin. Finally, you see Spirit snowball in the early game once again. And another thing that's very, very rare, Pastry Time, the rotation from Aluka was that much earlier than Akon.
Yeah, Aluka just been on point really with his movement. His teleports in the last game were good. His laning stuff, I mean, Aluka in general's just stepped up so much as a player.
He definitely has. And what will Morgana top actually opt into in a lane top? Starts a Ruby Crystal. Will it be a catalyst into a very late Rite of Ages? Maybe even a Righteous Glory for a more tanky Morgana? You have to think AP. Getting AP on this team is so important because let's look down the World Elite lineup. It's double AP or pseudo double AP with the Maokai doing basically exclusively magic damage. You need AP to ensure that Black Shield stays up on Imp because it was a double magic damage comp. If it was just a single magic damage comp, if it was just the Ahri, perhaps you could get away with a more tanky build. But they need AP to keep this Vayne safe in the late game as the hard freeze continues in bottom.
Yeah, although Mystic will walk in now with UJ and start to break it. Support's still very squishy, but POL going to have a bit of an aggression advantage there on his Annie. Build order is done for him, though, so probably feels comfortable in the landing situation.
I mean, he has a combat stat advantage, Pastry Time, despite the fact that he's died. Even with 2 assists, he's gone, you know, for the boots, the boots don't offer the same combat stats as the completed Bilge Water, so awkward buy timings coming through from Mystic and has to respect the level 6 Imp.
Yeah, and Vayne, just a pretty scary champion when she's on top of you. Anytime when she gets the free hit and chase you down, it's usually bad news for you, despite how squishy she can be. And POL always threatening with the stun as well.
That's the thing. Once you have the stun up, you have to respect the stun coming through. It's certainly not going to be the Tibbers anytime soon, but just the stun and the level 6 coming through from Vayne, that's the scary thing. Vayne is actually zoning a Lucian.
Yeah, and up 10 CS and counting now as well, doing a very good job as Mystic actually uses Culling, it looks like.
Needs to push in the wave, needs to stop the freeze, has the ranged wave clear coming through. Another one of the reasons why Lucian is so good in the early game is that he can break any of these freezes happening in any lane. So it's better now. It's safer for World Elite, but it's not ideal.
No, it's not ideal at all. And maybe speaking of not ideal, mid lane looks a little interesting for Xie. We'll get the blue buff here, but it's actually going for a Negatron cloak here, so really respecting Wayless's burst.
I mean, the base damages from Ahri are very high, and again, you have to respect the LeBlanc. So Abyssal Scepter, it's a very nice pickup. Synergizes with the magic base damages coming through from Maokai. It's awkward, as you mentioned. It's definitely not the power jump of 20% CDR, mana regen, and AP coming through from the components of a Morellonomicon. But in the 1v1, it just makes him that much more safe and allows him to actually push out the wave and not be afraid of being exploded from the damage coming out of Wayless.
Yeah, Xie rotating down as well. I think got spotted there, or at least was alerted to the fact where LGD Spirit was down in the bottom as well, looking for a gank, but unsuccessful here onto Imp, and he'll continue farming safely.
It's been not much pressure coming through from TBQ. That's the big difference this game, is that Spirit has definitely been very on point with the jungle pressure. We see the Jarvan and the Lee Sin both posturing to mid. 2 high kill pressure assassins mid. Plenty of mid lane.
Yeah, they are going to go in for it. It looks like Whaleth's actually already got chummed up. Shige going to look for the chase. Does use the ulti. TBQ trying to line it up, but actually Whaleth's going to try and get up and gets kicked in the face by Spirit. TBQ will get away, but the kill goes to Lee Sin.
But it was almost a solo kill from Jia, to be honest. They had to respect the pressure coming through from the Lee Sin, but the bait was just for too long. Whaleth. Very nice play from World Elite.
Yeah, big trade down the bottom as well. No big summoners burnt here as heal is coming back up for Imp, but actually a one trade there by Lucian, it looks like. So now Shie going to pressure in the mid, and they're really hoping to bait TBQ into a dive.
Yeah, they won't quite be able to be successful to, not quite the Blade of the Ruined King, but definitely close to it for Imp. About 600 gold, 700 gold away from that pickup. Lucian, as you mentioned, will get control of the lane. Will be able to push in if he so desires. At this point, not actually trying to go for the aggressive push. Nope, changes his mind. Here he goes, mowing down the minion wave.
Yeah, going to turn it up, and does have his ulti back up if he really wants to turn that on and get that pushed in. But, you know, going to clean it out. Use that passive as best he can as in the top lane. Acorn, 6 DCS to 54. Done a good job of staying competitive here despite all the swapping that has gone on for both the top laners. But you said it before, Acorn going for something different because he does have the Catalyst completed now.
You have to assume it'll be a Rod of Ages, but there's no guarantee that that will be the pickup. Has been maxing the Tormented Soil as Mystic finds PYO face check.
Yeah, Stun going to come in, but UJ there with the shield. Spirit, though, arriving in on top of the jungler here, and he will go down. Spirit again, always first to the punch.
Absolutely. Spirit is the one who's making the proactive moves, and every time TBQ overextends for a proactive move, face checks Spirit. And this is what happens when a really top jungler gets the run of a game. It feels he's always in the right spot, and if you overextend for damage, you pay the ultimate price with the 2 deaths coming through.
Yeah, second dragon going to come through for World Elite as well. They've got 4 clean kills and actually almost 2,000 gold ahead in this game. So World Elite sort of quietly just crept up with a very nice early game lead. This dragon looks uncontestable for LGD. They will have a ward down, so they should have a timer there. But Shia even zoning out Whaleth, and that second dragon goes straight to Spirit.
It's definitely an uncanny valley of a game because the one winning the AD carry matchup is the Vayne and the Vayne Lucian matchup. And then the early pressure of LeBlanc Jarvan is being out-pressured by Ahri Lee Sin. Wouldn't have expected either of those results, but the result is that World Elite is definitely on point in this early game, and it's all from Spirit's jungle pathing.
Yeah, I mean, Whaleth slightly ahead in CS there in the mid. With Merlin Nomicon still looking good. Down the bottom, could be some problems there. Well, it just seems fine as TBQ hanging out on Spirit. Back down here again.
Spirit is just lining up his angles. A lot of geometry happening as he waits for Imp. It's very overextended.
Yeah, I mean, can he outthink Imp here and land that first Q? It's pretty much guaranteed after that, although he does have the flash. Gonna move in. A great kick actually gets onto PYL as well, and Imp gonna get exhausted and taken out. That was beautiful.
Acorn sees his former teammate line up a beautiful kick. The double knock-up just cancels the teleport, smiles and says, well, I used to play with that guy.
Yeah, and for good reason. Spirit's a very strong jungler. I guess the only bad thing potentially for World Elite is that Spirit does actually have all the kills. 100% kill participation so far, and 5 of the 6 have gone to him.
And I hope that he follows TBQ's lead, because remember, when he snowballed, picked up the Aegis and made so much work. But no, he's going for the selfish build, got the Scythe, and that's going to be expected on Lee Sin for both mobility and getting the aggressive ward scouting. He's got a giant spell. You can say one thing, though. That's a lot of health. Maybe the turret dives they're going to start.
Yeah, that's what that signals to me for sure. So we'll see if Spirit gets even more aggressive, and every single one of his ganks has just been so on point. It's funny that we talk about Spirit usually looking the best when he's aggressively in the enemy jungle, but right now he's playing like world's dandy level S counter ganking.
I mean, this is just clear love level, and that's an LPL reference for sure. But excellent early Lee Sin play, 100% kill participation. As you mentioned, having all the kill credit barring 1, not ideal for Spirit, but how do you think TBQ feels? Everywhere he's gone, he's just caused death for his teammates.
She actually going to get dive on that. Now it's a Spirit Rush. Misses the charm, though, as UJ is down his own. Spirit, of course, is here again. Whaleth getting kind of sick of this and goes down as the kick will land on his face. TBQ now maybe going to get chased down. Will back away as PYL's rotated in as well. Annie level 6 does have the tippers ready. Flash there as well. But now Mystic's going to come around. The flash gets used. The stun not there. Mystic gets the last kill. Spirit lands the Q, and the tippers gets wasted.
You worry a bit for World Elite, though, Paystrom. It's the only time they've been picking out wins recently. Spirit goes Super Saiyan mode and just takes over a game. 8-0 is their kill score. It's gotten away from us very quickly. Certainly hasn't gotten away from Spirit. 6-0-2.
No, 3,500 gold up for World Elite as well. 2 dragons up, don't forget. No towers fallen yet, but Spirit doesn't really care it now. He's ganked every single lane successfully.
That's a sign of a good jungler.
It is.
Just having a great game. And that's the thing. He was well held for 2 games in a row. OMG able to pick up the victory off a strong Loveling Nunu performance in the second game yesterday. In the first game against LGD, it was TBQ, as we mentioned, spending the Snowball Gold and the Aegis that opened up a lot of his team's success. But this game has been played around TBQ, and Spirit doing amazing things.
Yeah, and you can tell why people try and hold this jungler down. When Spirit is allowed free round of a game, he just takes control immediately. And on a champion as aggressive as Lee Sin, Spirit's Lee Sin is a thing of beauty.
He just needs his teammates to step up. They did it at IEM. That's what facilitated their excellent second place spot. Is in the top lane. I don't think Akon has the damage
That
here.
was adorable. I think he dodged the damage, but not the stun as he twisted advance onto a minion. But he's just fine. Aluka a little low on mana, but down the bottom, something big is brewing. Aluka did get away.
Luka did get away, as you mentioned. The Rod of Ages pickup is late. It's going to be finished about 25 minutes into the game. The cooldowns are so long when you don't go 20% CDR Morgana. There just wasn't a second rotation of spells as he was backing away 4 seconds until Dark Binder was going to be available. Jarvan tried his luck down bottom, didn't find anything, and now he almost face checks Inari.
Sort of the story of TBQ's jungle pattern this game, I feel like. Everywhere he goes, he finds either Spirit or nothing.
Not ideal.
No, not at all. As GA now in the mid lane, level 11 with the blue buff plus the Abyssal Dog, going to push the creep waves very swiftly there with the Orb of Deception. Wayless kind of getting pressure now, actually caught up nicely on CS, has the Ahri as well. And this is sort of the part where Ahri can now stand in this lane and really bully LeBlanc. In fact, Wayless does get hit by a charm and takes a good chunk of damage.
I mean, pressure is actually an important thing to discuss in terms of the bottom lane because Imp actually has the completed item advantage, as there's all sorts of shenanigans going around in mid.
Very nice reactions there by Wayless. Just had that distortion there in time, but I believe Spirit snuck in, so if he'd been a slightly second of more patience or so, I think he would have gotten another kill.
Looking for a snowball Randuin's as Spirit. That's going to deal a lot with Vayne's early pressure. It will be an important item time because he will be a solo frontline, let alone what Aluka is doing with that item pickup. Ahri actually takes down the mid turret. That's a lot of pressure opened up to the roam, and Ahri is no slouch when it comes to the roams, even compared to the hyper-mobile LeBlanc.
And it's the first turret taken quite late here in this game. It's about 16.5 minutes, but a crucial one in the mid turret for World Elite. Dragon back in 45 seconds or so as well. So World Elite going to try and line up their third and make all these Spirit rotations that much juicier.
Look, World Elite are looking for a shorter laning phase. They have the strong mid game. They're against a Vayne Morgana comp, which wants to take it to the late game, especially the Vayne, of course. The Morgana's gone for a lot of ages. Stacking on the Morgana, it seems to me like the wrong idea, just because 20% CDR would mean that LGD would be a bit more team fight ready early. Now you're basically saying 25, 26 minutes before we want to opt into fights. There could be 3-4 dragons down before that time comes, pastry time.
They could, and now the GA and Spirit going to clear out the Scuttle Crab there. Dragon up in 10 seconds, which will be the third here for World Elite if they claim it. Spirit posturing aggressively. UJ actually in there as well. Mystic going to do a bit of damage onto TBQ. Not overcommitting. PYL though drops the bear down, but GA's in the mix as well. TBQ diving in, but Ahri's just going deep in the back, gets condemned into a wall of Spirit, gets bound and locked up by Akon, who's teleported in. Spirit's now getting stunned. Wayless gets the kill for the shutdown, and everyone low here, but no kills here for World Elite. Although Akon does go down. PYL just dodging the Flash Item Blaze.
The Flash Item Blaze, I don't think had high enough base damage even to take down the flashing PYL. Only about 60 damage coming out of that ability since it has no AD scaling anymore. Just take the Dragon, World Elite. You don't need to go too aggressive. They will get the turret from all of this, but if they don't take the third Dragon, it's a big loss for them. I guess without Smite, they feel pressured, but they need this objective.
Yeah, and they are going to go for it here, and I think this is the right call. TBQ pretty low on health, so if he eats a CC, he'll die fairly quickly. No World Elite, just going to give it up.
I mean, that's 500 gold coming through to Wayless. That leads to Merlin Omicron, Sorcerer's Shoes, a blasting one, and still 875 gold in the inventory. So very, very powered up from that exchange. Actually now is ahead of, so just 200 gold behind the Ahri, who he was losing trades to, we have to remember. This snowball could be significant.
I mean, Shie has 2,000 unspent gold or more in the bank right now, which maybe is the reason that they don't want to fight for that dragon. So Ahri needs to spend her gold before the next fight, but World Elite aggressively going to move back onto the dragon.
Yeah, Amp turn means she's working towards Zonya's. Definitely doesn't have the gold yet to complete that item. They start up the dragon again. Morgana's in top without teleport. So this will be a third dragon, a very important one for World Elite. I mean, 5% move speed, even just in linear sense, it lets you stay out of Cataclysm Rage. It gives you more movement speed to potentially move out of the Soul Shackles. It will be very relevant outside of rotations, even just in team fights.
Yeah, just such a good stat to have. I mean, that's the reason the third dragon's so good, is that movement speed is just very hard to itemize for. Ooh, Xie getting low, does go down to Wayless, though Ignite will clean that kill out, and Red Buff actually helping out as well.
Xie went uncharacteristically aggressively back to the mid lane after they picked up the dragon, face-checked Wayless, and yep, LeBlanc still does a lot of damage.
Yes, really does here, especially given that Wayless has started to power up. Morel and Normak on the up for Xie, so aggressive choice there again. Mystic has to be careful. POL again threatening with the stun, and Imp is really powering up now. Blade done, plus the Berserker Greaves and another dagger. It's Van's Imp. We're probably expecting the Imp build.
But we already saw that Imp has had the pressure in bottom lane. Only now is the competitive Infinity Edge coming through to answer what was a very early Blade of the Ruined King. LGD, they pick up the counter top turret, and Imp has been growing a CS advantage of what has been for at least 12, 13 minutes, a 2v2 lane. So Imp picking up lane control CS against Illusion. The late game is still far away, but 5 minutes on the Rod of Ages now. 5 minutes that's completely powered up. CDR already started with the CDR, the Ionian boots. I mean, 40% CDR Morgana's around the corner, and Vayne, she's getting strong.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is getting strong here in LGD. Wayless almost done with his Rabadon's death cap. TBQ needs to go into his next item, but probably just going to get tankier from this stage on. Distortion Moby's done already for POL for the Makako Tabe special. And just moving through, I mean, Spirit's very tanky. He's gotten so many kills, but his carries are suffering a little bit. They don't have that much damage right now.
And look, Spirit had the option of going the team build, building an Aegis against the true double AP, because not a Maokai we're talking about. It's actually the Morgana and LeBlanc stacking AP. Or he could go for the selfish rando. So he's taken it upon himself to deal with Imp in these early fights, especially. If he cannot do that, LGD, they should be winning these fights. Because again, all the gold is on Spirit.
Yeah, I mean, 6-1-3. Participated in all 9 kills, has 2/3 of them. Actually, his kills there as well. Zaluka getting a bit stronger. Kindle Gem there as well with a lot of cost-efficient tank items. Does have his warding tone him up as well. So going to be providing some good vision around here as he clears out a pink ward. I mean, World Elite just kind of being patient. Do have the 3 dragons, can't forget. So happy to just wait out and fight them. But can't let LGD farm up too much because they're going to get to a point where that mid-game hits and LGD are going to be surprisingly strong.
I mean, the big item timings are coming through. You already mentioned the Rabadons. It's going to be in the next shop you have. He already has the gold for Rabadons. With that needlessly large rod, Zhonya's is coming soon from Morgana to have a lot of initiation options. The freedom to put the black shield onto Imp and then have the stasis to get an engage. The item timings being hit far superior to what World Elite are building towards. And the team fights could be devastating around what we have to assume will be the 4th dragon.
And Imp is still bullying this Lucian as well, which is amazing to me. I mean, Mystic sort of hanging out, doing what he can, but POL and Imp on top of Ward just going to line up another stun, and this is part of the issue. Vayne lane's generally pretty passive, and he's been one of the more aggressive ones, and at this stage with Vayne being such a good duelist, no one's ever going to walk into POL.
And look, Vayne was always a skill matchup to some degree against Lucian just because we actually look down at the skill order, has max tumble before silver bolts. The reason you do that, you can tumble out of the piercing light. You can win damage trades. Although you're brittle in lane, especially the Vayne Annie, as kind of an all-in feast or famine lane, you still want to navigate to the Bilgewater. From Bilgewater onwards, you have some options against the Lucian. So while it's not necessarily the 2v2 matchup I'm focused upon, despite the fact that Spirit has had so much pressure in the bottom lane and in other lanes, you know, the 2 deaths that Imp wears are scars of that. Still able to have the lane control and still able to play overextended, not respecting all the pressure Spirit's put out. He's been negated for the last 10 minutes or so, or 5 minutes perhaps. And they're just picking up CS after CS.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of farming up here, but LGD just feel more proactive on this map. POL, though, going to get kicked back there. The ultimate coming through for Lucian, going to get the kill, though. That's a nice pick for World Elite.
Yeah, PYO culled after the flash kick coming out from Spirit. It's a lot used to pick up a support, but 3 members strong. They're going to try and get damage onto this inner turret.
Spirit and his Randuin's probably pretty happy to dive in, but TBQ's joining in now to try and defend them off. Xie, though, can also look to that with the Spirit Rush, doing good damage to Spirit. Will eat a condemn, but that might actually keep him to go in. The Tornado will hit in there. Imp dodging that Q, though, out from Spirit. And Xie is not... Where is Xie? Oh, there he is, hiding over there, looking for a tile over. Luca may be coming through as well. Wayless even off to the side. But looks like LG are going to give up this tier 2.
Yeah, seeding the tier 2. Jie was reacting very aggressively, and actually Wayless took the defensive option. Spirit goes in, trying to bait a teleport. He gets it.
Yeah, fakes it out there, but Xie coming in there, dodging through with the ultimate. It might gonna be the next target. It's a Foxfire and takes quite a lot of damage, actually. The Abyssal Scepter are a very aggressive build, but doing lots of damage to Squishies.
I mean, look, we're still waiting for the Morgana Zhonya's before it's go time for the team fights from Acorn and LGD. Aluka just picking up farm, but the CS, it's looking good across the board. 3 members over 200 compared to just Mystic on the World Elite side.
And most importantly, Dragon's up in 45 seconds, and Aegis just got completed by UJ of World Champions. So they did want the Aegis against the AAP, had to wait for the support to get it, but all of a sudden, World Elite look much more teamfight ready.
I imagine Marta looks over at disapproval with no Magi's being completed, but the Aegis is very necessary against the AAP. Looking at the gold, no chance that we're going to see the Zhonya's from Acorn. So could have gone for that item timing, but went for the distortion boots for the flash. The flash, you have to think, with the items, he's going to be looking to Black Shield himself. Imp is going to have to be a bit more conservative with his positioning in a team fight.
And he does have the fan advantage. Imp definitely known for high mobility on the Vayne in the team fights, but Spirit actually might have been caught up by Wayless. Now good Tornado will disengage POAL, can't find a line for the stun, and does not drop the Baron. Anyone on Dragon is back up right now.
Spirit actually went over aggressively onto TBQ. It backs away, has of course extreme mobility on the Lee Sin. Ari's in position now. Importantly, Morgana has group. They are 5-man strong before the teleport can be completed.
Yeah, Luca needs to try and maybe teleport right now if he wants it. World Leader going to opt in for a 50-50. Potentially Spirit going to make it work. Does get the 4th Dragon. And Aluka now coming down. Is actually in the middle of the fight. TBQ fails his flash and now jumps on the Mystic, but goes down just there to Xie. But there's damages coming in. UJ will go down there. Aluka still moving in as Xie picks up LeBlanc. Imp, though, is going off in these fights. He doesn't have quite enough health, though. Does go down. A triple kill there for Ari, and Xie did so much work about it. He wants the Quadra so bad. Uses the Q for a bit of movement speed. Flashes forward, finds the charm. Not enough from the Foxfire, though, and just eats the binding. Oh, the Q just out of range.
The max range Q probably would have taken him down with the AP stack that came through, but World Elite, that fight was so close to being a 1-1 from LGD. The Mimic Distortion wrecked the backline, flashing members, 3 at the time. 1 eventually did fall down. That was Spirit, but World Elite, they secured the 4th Dragon. I thought actually that there would be a level advantage for Spirit given how much work he'd done, but it was 12-12. They were equal on level, so Spirit completely on point with the smite. The win conditions, though, it's going to be a very early 5th Dragon coming through. And even if LG picked the next one up, there's every 6 minutes the threat of the 5 Dragon stack from World Elite.
Yeah, that big doomsday clock almost here for World Elite, now starting to tick away. And for me, the biggest thing is you have to remember, UJ for me, 4 points for that Aegis just looks so good.
And that was the difference, remember, of course, with all the AoE damage we saw through. When you see those flashing members, 20 magic resist less, those were going to be exit kills coming through from the snowballed LeBlanc. So Wayless going to be a bit frustrated that he wasn't able to win that fight. Credit to UJ, it's now a Locket coming through from the Janna. Another build of magic resist. The only person who had itemized magic resist apart from the Janna was the Abyssal Scepter and the Spirit Visage. So despite having a lot of armor, relatively squishy to magic damage is Spirit.
Yeah, and that's good. Sorry, good like you mentioned that UJ did have the Aegis, which came up clutch in the important 4th Dragon. We do have a pause, of course. You saw Spirit on the screen earlier, shaking his hands, making sure they're warmed up, because this is a big game for World Elite. Again, going to be disappointed to just get a split here, but at this point, honestly, when you drop the first game, the split's the minimum you're looking for after that.
I mean, the split's the minimum, as you mentioned. A point, though, when they're 9 points behind King in 8th spot's not ideal. Just matches what King picked up today. Look, there are enough series. They're not mathematically out of it. I don't believe anybody will be really till the last week of the LPL, such is the nature of having such a long, intensive 24-game weekend of games. But World Elite, it's looking unlikely, you'd have to say. They may have to battle for their chance in the LPL through the playoffs. And this lineup, it has a lot of promise. We don't really know what's coming through from the LSPL. There's always going to be strong teams coming through from the Challenger Leagues across the world. But World Elite, they want to at least put themselves up in spot to give themselves the pick of the options, of course. You don't want to be last spot and be forced to take the strongest of the LSPL teams.
And honestly, just use your time in the LPL. If you don't think you're going to make playoffs, train as hard as you can. These are good teams you're playing against. There's a world of difference between the LPL and the LSPL, which I guess maybe the King versus Snake story can tell us. Yes, there are great teams in both leagues, but World Elite, they have a new lineup. They've got to train them. Why not use the LPL?
And you have to think that World Elite changed their lineup in the hopes of playoffs, in the hopes of still still managing to get something out of a season that's been very trying for them. It took such a long time for their first victory, you'll remember. SDYZ, ironically, on Ezreal, allowing them to pick up their first victory against Vici Gaming, I believe, it was about the 11th attempt. It was a long first win. They've improved in fortune since then, but it hasn't been the big 2-0s. It hasn't been the big 3-point victory. So, look, a point will take them mathematically ahead of EP. It'll take them to 11th, but it's a hollow victory for World Elite. But let's focus on the game. They still have to get that win. It still could be an LGD victory. Things are looking good for World Elite with the 5th Dragon being repeatedly threatened from as early as 32 minutes into the game. You have to think at some point they'll get that all-important pick with the Ari Charm, with the Lee Sin outplay, even with the Twisted Advance coming through from Aluka on the Maokai, and pick up that 5th Dragon. We've already seen consistently, if you pick up those 5th Dragons, you're in a good spot to finally break the base.
Yeah, even with your mid-game comp, you just do so much damage when you have all those stats doubled that it's kind of ridiculous what you can get done. And there's a pretty tight timing window you have to think. Yes, the first Dragon's not much for LGD, but you have to think as far as their scaling and sort of trajectory for this game goes, if they get one Dragon away from World Elite, that should buy them just enough time to get to the late game where they want to be.
And look, the time the next Dragon comes through, there will be important item timings coming through for LGD. They do have the 10-stack Rod of Age. It's not really that important compared to the Zhonya's, which you can see the Seeker's Arm Guard is actually in the item bot. It's about 100 gold away, so for sure, Akon will have the Zhonya's. We haven't really felt the impact of the top lane Morgana just yet. Definitely hasn't been the Morgana that perhaps you would have seen if there was a Juggermore comp going on, where just a Black Shield being powered up would be enough. Going for more of this laning build, the Rod of Ages, I don't know if necessarily the health stat that comes through in the 80 AP is really worth it compared to the Morellonomicon, the flexibility of 40% CDR. You forget the Morgana's cooldowns are really long. That's the thing. The base cooldowns are really long. It's always deceptive when it's towards the 40% CDR with the CDR boots and the Morellonomicon. At the moment, just the CDR boots is hovering around 15 to 20% CDR. But that extra 20% to get down those low cooldowns, the second Black Shield might be the difference between Imp living and dying in a fight. But the Zhonya's at least will allow him to use that ability defensively on Imp and go in aggressively with his flash. That you can tell from the distortion boost. That was already his claim. Yeah,
and that's sort of Akon's thing, remember. He's great at flanking, great at using high-impact mage ultimates especially, and just turning teamfights around. So I get it from Akon. He's actually quite starved of just farm in general this game, given that it's almost 27 minutes through here at the pause, and he's yet to complete his Zhonya's and far away from 40% CDR at this particular juncture. It was a kind of an interesting pick for Akon. I don't remember him playing top Morgana, at least in recent memory, but it definitely makes sense with his style as a player. But Aluka is just far tankier at this point, far more useful at this stage of the game.
I mean, that's the thing about Maokai. He has such an early power spike. Even just Catalyst and level 6, you go in there with the Vengeful Maelstrom. You're helping out your whole team with inherent tankiness. It's the earlier power spike. It's the reason why we see Maokai in teams like the Juggermore, where you can throw him as a tanky top laner. Okay, he doesn't necessarily provide a shield for the Cogmore necessarily, but on low resources, you can impact those mid-game fights with just a Catalyst, and what we've seen consistently, that's been the build recently. Catalyst, maybe the Spectre's Cowl in this game was actually the Kindle Gem and the Glacial Shroud for just cost-effectiveness, stats, health, mana, armor, magic resist, everything that Maokai needs in the early levels to keep the Vengeful Maelstrom going and just having the tanky stats and getting into fights. And unfortunately, the Morgana pick, we haven't seen the massive Soul Shackles. We haven't even seen the defensive utility on Imp with the Black Shield. So maybe at 30 minutes, but if it's not at the next Dragon fight, this game will snowball away. Because think about Lucian and what he's going to be getting from the 5th Dragon buff. Even just the true damage is going to be applied doubly every time from his passive. Is already a massive thing to consider. He's actually gone for an extra BF sword after the Infinity Edge and Phantom Dance, a 12% extra AD, looking very juicy. You have to think Mystic's going to be licking his lips at the stitches coming through. There will be a colossal fight. You never seed a 5th Dragon unless you're getting a massive advantage. I don't even think you seed it for a Baron necessarily. We may see that trade. There's been no Baron action in the first 26 minutes. It's a close game, and both the mids are doing their thing. We've seen assassinations and counter-assassinations between Jia and Wayless, but the Vayne, it can always overtake a game. We know Imp is great at this champion, but been quiet outside of a very healthy CS value so far.
Yeah, and they're pretty good divers for the Vayne, and we already talked about Spirit wanting to get on top of the Vayne with these early roundy ones and really just stick there. Very usefully can actually reveal Vayne in stealth, which is super annoying as far as the mobility around team fights goes. So that's a nice little option there as well for Lee Sin. Ari and Maokai can both dive in there as well, so I like a lot of what's going on there. I actually love kind of looking through the comp and the Aegis that we mentioned now, a Locket actually completed for UJ. what they do a very good job of actually neutering LeBlanc quite effectively. I think we've talked about this a lot, and it's maybe worth while we have this pause. I think it's almost resolved. Talking about it a little deeper, is that how good Maokai is against LeBlanc.
Absolutely. Just a 20% damage reduction. Between the Aegis and the Vengeful Maelstrom, that's the only reason the backline lived. We saw the flashing health bars. It was so close between what was a double, triple kill coming through from Wayless and the living. So it's a very good point. The Aegis just paying off in so many ways. Aegis, the invisible power of that item. You just have to respect what it puts out. 100 magic resist for your team effectively. 4 members getting 20 and then yourself as well for the 100. It's just so strong. You see the aura, you can see the yellow and blue, I believe, that hovers around the enemy. But it's been the difference between what would have been a 4th Dragon win for World Elite that resulted, or LGD potentially picking up their first Dragon.
Yeah, and it was smart distribution of gold there as well, knowing that Spirit wanted to be the one that really stuck on Vayne and tried to keep Imp down. Again, the player's looking pretty calm. I think that is... that's a Luca, actually. He's looking a little tired, kind of rubbing his head there. Saw him yawn earlier as well. Been a long day, certainly, for the LPL, as almost always. World Elite in that last game now, the last game of today here up against LGD, and they're kind of feeling it, but, still keeping happy, keeping the spirits up, and Spirit especially, hilariously, always wanted to motivate his team and keep them up.
I mean, he was the emotional center of the team on the world stage. We saw at the IEM World Finals, even as they were losing games against TSM, cheering up his team, trying to be the cheery member. You, of course, knows that he has the face mask with the mustache that he often wears, just to, again, build up his team, be positive. That positivity can only help during a pause, because, of course, you're sitting there just reflecting on your game, reflecting on the thoughts, thinking about your team's win conditions. It can be frustrating, as we can, of course, see players leaving and exiting the game. Just some computer troubles, I guess, being the main issue that's been dealt with on the stage. It's a close game. World Elite definitely have an advantage, 5,000 gold or so, and the 5th Dragon. You can't ask for much more. We see the Mystic fans are actually out in full support, PYL as well, so a bit of everything. Spirit, understandably, also getting his points.
Yeah, a lot of love for Spirit there as well. A couple of random PYL fans, of course. Very popular players here. Who do you see? I think that's Mystic, if my brain is working. Looks very cheery here. Should be as well. 2-0-10 on Lucian here in this game. And I have to say, Mystic's Lucian has just seemed a cut above his other champions so far.
I mean, it's interesting. Sivir actually looked very good at IEM. They were playing very interesting Sivir comps around the Hekarims of the world, around the Scion. We're very sad that we haven't seen a Lucas Scion. There was actually a massive cheer yesterday when he hovered over it. People want to see the return of the Scion. Not necessarily the most winning champion, the most hilarious champion for sure. But we haven't seen much of him. Just going for the Maokai. I feel like when Maokai's up, you just take him because, again, he has such wave clear from long range, such a reliable laning phase. People having fun in the crowd, as you can see. Yeah, World Elite, a very popular organization. LGD rising in popularity, especially with some of the star names that they've imported. Long pause coming through. Just waiting to see what will be the tipping point. You feel like LGD, if Imp can just get the cleanup in one of these fights, they could definitely win a fight. He's just dying to all the incidental damage and the lockdown coming through from Aluka.
I think it's interesting how both teams really want to just dive on the other team as far as engage goes, which actually makes being able to peel for your AD carry and just your character in general quite important. And I think that UJ's Janna kind of outs that a lot here, because POL, very one-dimensional, Jarvan sort of the same, and Akon pretty much just want to look for big goals. We see so many signs for World Elite.
I mean, World Elite, such a popular organization, only recently been surpassed by the old Chinese lineup, adding in Uzi of OMG. World Elite still a very popular org. Of course, the popular are going to see a spike after doing far better than expected at IEM. Everyone wants to see this org stick around, especially, I mean, it's unfathomable to think there could be an LPL season without World Elite, which is a reality given the dire predicaments at the bottom of the table. The LSBL are going to certainly see a bump in viewership if they do end up down in that league. Still a very competitive league, but the LPL and World Elite, we remember back to the first season of the LPL where people wrote off the Chinese region and said, well, it's going to be World Elite or IG. Those are the only 2 teams around. The fact that they're now in 11 shows just how fortunes have changed. Of course, all the members of that team, sadly now no longer with the organization. Still, we see Clear Love and enjoy his play in other games. But World Elite, they don't necessarily resemble their old team, but still, it's a lot of popularity. They're still a very popular organization. They find themselves in a big hole. They're trying to get out of it in this game, and of course, in the future. It's going to be a difficult fight for them, though.
Yeah, it's kind of looking through as well. Akon trying to stay focused. Again, it's been quite a long pause here for the players, as well as you guys at home. And, of course, us as well here for our last game of the evening. Always seems to happen in the last game. Something goes wrong there on the stage in
I mean,
China.
it makes sense. The computers have been working overdrive for 8 games space through time. So things, the toaster's just getting a bit too hot.
All these sick players can't handle it. Shea there.
And did you see that Lee Sin kick? early in
that
this game.
kick was disgusting. I'm so curious if Spirit did that intentionally. I have to admit, I'll give him credit for it. I have to
Look,
imagine
if
he
anyone is in a head of form and deserves a bit of extra plaudits, it's Spirit. So completely intentional, A+.
Really good stuff. Yeah, GA, maybe Spirit's cheering up. Looked a little stone-faced before, but sort of staring intently at his screen, wondering if it'll ever unpause. But don't worry, I'm sure it will at one point. GA going to stay focused here. Actually has Merc Treads on his eye, which I think is kind of cute.
And look, Merc Treads on Mages, something that Dade, of course, is well known for, picking up those early defensive options. Not quite the QSS, but just the Merc Treads to not die instantly to Wayless's burst is a very relevant statistic. Between Abyssal Scepter and Merc Treads, I believe, is sitting at, let's have a look now, 117 magic resist. So that's very, very healthy. That's without the Aegis adding up to 137. So that shouldn't be the one-shot potential from Wayless until perhaps the Void Starve is completed. Even then, it's going to be a bit optimistic. I guess one factor we haven't discussed is that when we see this 5th Dragon, one important thing for World Elite is having flashes available, because the reality is that the sheer slow, there's a massive burst slow coming through from the Soul Shackles. If we do see a 5-man Soul Shackles, you need to be able to flash from that tether. The extra 2.5 seconds will be massive, as I believe we might be heading towards a break.
Whatever is going on here is sweet, by the way.
Are we going to commentate the break? Let's do it.
I'm ready to commentate the break. Look at this. This is sick. There's like a trophy everywhere. Sweet graphics. LPL production's great. Oh, my God. This can only end well. It's a very debonair Ezreal. That's what that is. I have to say, if you guys have never seen like some of the pregame shows for LPL and stuff, they have some 10 out of 10 cosplay.
Why when we're watching it now?
We are, exactly. Look at that hair. That's definitely not real.
The shades are also.
The shades, they're not very debonair, actually. I feel like that detracts from the cosplay.
What do debonair shades look like, Pastry Time?
I mean, wouldn't you have like a monocle? Wouldn't that be the classy thing to have? Can you imagine Ezreal like running away shooting people with a monocle?
I mean, Ezreal doesn't strike me as a monocle wearer, though.
Are you sure? What?
An intrepid explorer, perhaps?
How else does he snipe people with True Shot Barrage? He has to have a monocle.
It's a good question.
See? That's what I thought. Oh, man, we got some sweet highlights coming through. That is Faker killing someone. Goodbye. How's he playing as the Azir champion? That guy's awful now. Oh, there's actually other standings, by the way, so we can actually at least talk about these. Top half right now, LGD, as you can see, 4th. There's World Elite down the bottom, 9-1-6. Not the best record, but starting to pick themselves up
this was
ever
at the start
so
of the
slowly.
weekend, so they are actually even with EP after their results yesterday. Commentating.
There are some sweet highlights going on. Gee, Tigers are winning again. Don't know how they feel about that after playing World Elite. That was a pretty amazing series. But it looks like we might be having a break. I don't know. The Chinese production seems to be wanting to go on a break. I'm not sure if we're going to go there soon as well. But if not, we're going to keep talking, because there's lots of cool stuff to talk about still.
Wait and hear what our producers decide. About 6 minutes on that timer means this game, actually the pause time is at 15 Pastry Time. So could get down to those red numbers that we've seen before. You viewers haven't. They're a bit scary. They're very ominous. But
yeah, not good.
Pause coming along.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be a Chinese League of Legends game with Papa Time if we didn't have a very long pause.
Absolutely not. And we're definitely running out of material. We're waiting to see these
I don't know about
flashes
that.
come away. I see the thumbs up. I believe it might be time.
We are going to
for
be
a
going
break.
to a quick break, guys. Don't get anywhere, though. Once we're back, World Elite versus LGD will return. And we are back from our quick break there. Didn't last too long, thankfully. Quite a long pause, but we are back into the action. So just to refresh, LGD versus World Elite, the last game here, actually, with LGD up on World Elite in a strong position, 14-4 per kills. And they're going straight in there to go aggressive. PYL gets killed by Shie. Spirit going to dive in onto TBQ. The Q lands in there. Spirit kicks him in the face. And 2 clean kills for WE.
Some very aggressive posture around the enemy blue, and it could be Baron.
It could be indeed, and actually they've already started at Mystic and Aluka hanging out there as the minions for LGD get themselves a turret. Baron, though, going to melt under the damage, and the 5th Dragon coming up World Elite. They kind of took a break, but they've opened up now. Now Yuja going to flash in towards Akon. Shie riding in there, the Morgana. Great Zonias to keep Akon alive for just a second longer, but Shie going to claim another kill.
The Baron buff for Dragon will not be an optional trade for LG. It's already the Baron locked up from World Elite. That Baron exploded to the damage coming through from Mystic with the extra BF sword. More than I expected, absolutely. And LG, they were slow to rotate, specifically Imp pushing in those minions, getting that bottom outer turret, but that's not a trade you ever want to opt into.
No, World Elite taking their break seriously, really coming out of the gates once they already had everything sorted out. And again, clearly formulating a game plan, knowing what they wanted to do, had a good lead in this game, but it's catapulted up now, 9,000 gold ahead.
So many win conditions open to World Elite. The 5th Dragon's going to be spawning in a few minutes' time. The gold is already stacking on their members, 1,700 for Lucian, 2,400 for Spirit. Look, everything is looking good for LGD, barring the biggest of carry performances from Imp on the Vayne.
Yeah, and you know, his Imp's great, but Sheer now going to dive in onto Wayless, going so aggressive now. Mystic's going to find him, and UJ, of all people, picks up the kill.
I don't know what Wayless was doing so overextended. Sure, he had a turret to move back to, but into the mid lane, into neutral territory against a Baron buff 4 turret. Sorry, a Baron buff 4 Dragon World Elite. Optimistic, to say the least.
Yeah, and Imp now is his last Whisper, so does do respectable late game damage now, or at least start to, but I don't think he can contend for all of the power that Waterley currently have. Luca, almost out of nowhere, finished his Frozen Heart. Doesn't even go for the Righteous Glory yet, still has his Catalyst ready to go, and Waterley with the Baron are pushing in.
Yeah, turret damage, minion pushing, those 2nd and 4th dragons are actually very, very relevant. They've got them so fast that with the Baron buff, they're breaking the base and then some.
Yeah, base real broken now as Waterley going to peel off towards the Dragon now, which is up in a minute 40 or so, and LGD, you know, kind of thinking about it, must have been, you know, strategizing during the pause. What are we going to do? And Waterley, like, you know what? Don't care what you're doing. We're just going to start taking over.
And their only defensive ward on the red side and dragon side is the one pink ward towards the Raptors. That's all they have in terms of visions against the pick potential of Giet. The flash available on Spirit, the kick flash, we've seen it once already, can be devastating. World Elite, they've got everything in their advantage.
Yeah, and she has already been using his ultimate like it's on sale just every single time he can. Just pops in the Spirit Rush and goes aggressive. Spirit posturing forward there as well, and the Baron's going to start to go for another tower.
Yeah, they're going to push towards this turret. They still have a minion wave. She is caught.
Yeah, but does on. Is actually the bear drops down, but Spirit taking turret dagger. Aluga going to pop his ulti and run away. TVQ running in. The ulti there for UJ, but Wayless and him doing good damage. Akon moving in. Sia though gets condemned by Imp, and Imp is going up, but just gets destroyed by all of Lucian's damage. And World Elite 4 for 1, and the base continues to crumble.
Spirit can continue to tank this turret for a long time. The Janna shield helps him out in terms of effective health. There's the Baron buff minions. Finally, the minion wave hits them. 30-second death time, as this could be the game.
Yeah, we might see some Nexus turrets at least go down here. They're going to work on one. They should get the first. Can they get more and close out the game? The end of this game, if it doesn't, now will be a lot shorter than the pause we had to endure, but World Elite going to call it all worth it. Had a bit of a bump in the middle, looked so strong coming out of this game, and they just win. LGD, another split in today's LPL.
World Elite blow them away in 4 minutes after the pause page time. They come out of the pause, guns blazing, got the picks around the blue, took away the Baron, didn't even have to wait the 6 minutes to what would have been an early Dragon, because the game's already over. 5 seconds to that 5th Dragon will come up. That seems appropriate. As World Elite, they pick up the victory, only the sole point. Definitely not much of a buffer between them and Energy Pacemaker at the bottom of the standing. Still a lot of work to do to catch up to King, but every point is precious at the business end of the season.
It is, and the thing is, they still need more points. I mean, a split just feels so anticlimactic for both teams because all you really want at the end of the season is more points.
Absolutely. They would have their kingdom for the 3 points, still very much in what is a relegation battle at the bottom end of the table. Again, they'll be looking for 3 every time they come out, Pastry Time, but not today.
No, and a lot of splits today. But join us tomorrow, of course, for more LPL. Will we see some 2-0s? Which teams are going to keep moving up towards playoffs and which teams are going to fall down past that 8th place spot? We'll find out tomorrow, but for myself, Papa Smidley at the Spawn and our entire live production crew, we'll see you tomorrow for the last day of this week of the LPL.